Hey y'all, Alex here, and we're joined by a very special guest today. We're joined by Bynx, if you had not noticed by my snazzy introduction. Bynx, I had to steal it. It was a special occasion today. Welcome to the Snapchat, my man. How you doing today?
I am doing so well, man. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I've been excited to come join you on the Snapcast sometime, or the Snapchat, sorry. And dude, I'm feeling good. I'm loving Marvel Snap right now. There's a lot of really, really cool things happening. I'm happy to just sit down and chat with you, my dude.
Damn, called me the Snapcast right off the rip. I'm gonna get sued by Super Tech and Guest Gaming now. What have you done, Bynx? But no, I'm just joking. But yeah, it's great to have you, man. And honestly, you look like you're on cloud nine. You're wearing a Bears jersey, and you know what? We're recording just after the Bears played, and is that part of the reason why you're so happy today?
Oh yeah, man. Well, we were talking a little bit before, but jumping on and doing a podcast right after a Bears game. We were 1-12 in the last 13 games, taking a lot of really bad, really, really hard hitting defeats. So getting a big win today, feeling on cloud nine, man. Feeling good, loving Caleb Williams. Being a Bears fan is one of the hardest things to do in America, but every once in a while it pays off and makes you feel good, man.
I know there's a lot of people out there thinking, why are they talking about football and NFL and the Bears? But here's the thing. If you think about it, the Bears are the perfect analogy to Marvel Snap, because the Bears take a whole bunch of L's, and then when there's the one dub, it feels so damn good, right?
Feels so sweet, man. It feels so sweet. There's been a lot of dubs recently.
There have been a lot of dubs. Listen, there's a lot of L's. Just like the Bears, there have been a lot of L's.
True.
But there have been some dubs lately, and we're actually going to be talking about a couple of them today, including Deadpool's Diner and stuff, which I think is a massive win. Second Dinner does need a lot of credit for what they've been pulling off the last couple of weeks, especially with the new game mode being as well designed as it is, as generous as it is, perhaps even maybe too generous, and we'll discuss that stuff too. But long story short, man, I'm just so excited to be here with you because you're someone who has been creating content ever since the start of Snap. You're like an OG beta gamer. I remember before I got in, I was watching your videos. I remember watching Bynx videos. I remember watching TLSG. I remember watching you guys like through the window, hoping, man, I hope I get to play this game one day. And here we are on a podcast talking to each other. Why don't you let us know about like what got you into Marvel Snap in the first place, and kind of like what inspired you to start making content for it?
Yeah, so I had been following Ben Brode after Ben Brode left Hearthstone. I'd kind of been following what he was doing. I know he'd been gone for a while. I used to really, really love Hearthstone. I made like Wild Legend like 9 times, so I used to grind that game a lot. And then he left, and I always kind of been, keeping an eye on him. And then when I saw that Marvel Snap was coming, I saw the initial push with it. Trump, the Hearthstone streamer, not the other Trump, the Hearthstone streamer, was doing a lot of really, really cool things with it. And I was lucky enough to just jump in and do the beta. And I had been, honestly, consistently streaming and doing YouTube videos for 2.5 years up until that point. I had like 50 subs on YouTube. I had like 50 followers on Twitch. No following whatsoever, just kind of doing everything. And then, I was the very first person who just started hammering Marvel Snap and making content on it and trying to just kind of show off this game that not a lot of people had access to. And then, things just kind of started accelerating. I was, 100xing my numbers on videos and different things like that. And then I just kept that momentum going into launch. And then, I mean, you were around during launch, man. During the full launch of Marvel Snap, there's a huge boom in content and so many views and everything like that, and so many eyes on it. So I just jumped in because it seemed like the card game that was like perfectly designed for me. I've always liked like bite-sized games. So the fact that it's a card game, it's only 6 turns, it only takes a few minutes. And then the snapping mechanic was like this really interesting way, because I was someone who'd never retreated in Hearthstone, even when like everything was against the wall. If I had like a 0.01 chance of winning, I would go all in against it. But having this like retreat and snap mechanic, making retreats an actual like tactical choice, not just always losing, was really, really exciting for me. And I think it just was a perfect pairing of me being in the right place, it being a game that I really loved and I still love a ton to this day. No matter how much flack gets for Marvel Snap, I'll be one of the first people to say it's like my favorite game ever made. It's just the mechanics are just so awesome. Just worked out to be able to give me a rise and being able to do content and stuff like this full time. So just kind of the perfect setup of a perfect game for me that I really enjoyed and showing it to people. And here I am a while later here on the Snapchat with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's again, it's crazy to think about how like I remember watching your content and thinking about like how well like you presented and how good like your deck highlights were, right? I think you were the one of the first ones to like really do like these consistent deck highlights too. And not just like here's what's happening in the meta type thing, but like actual legitimate like heavy cooking. You were one of the first chefs of Marvel Snap, which I've certainly appreciated, right? And I want to mirror what you've said, that I too love the game. And I think that's something that we both share. And despite its ups and downs at times and some of the directions that it's gone in here and there, very consistently it's been a game that when I turn on my stream, I'm excited to stream. I'm excited to play. Like, and that's so rare. Like I remember when I was doing Dota content, you'd be stuck in these 45-minute grind fest that like within the first 3 minutes you knew you were going to lose, but you weren't able to leave because like of like lever punishment, all this stuff. One of the things I love about Snap was the fact that like the solution to tilting is just queuing your next one. You know what I mean? Just go next and just move on. And even like, it's just so good. And it's just such a unique game from that standpoint. One thing I will take issue with though, and this is something that has grinded my gears only over the last maybe 6 months, was I've started, this might be a really hot take, but I don't think I like retreating. Like as an actual mechanic, like I understand why it's like a high skill cap thing. And in like competitive Snap, I think that's really cool. Like in tournaments and stuff, I think that's totally different. But for like ranked ladder and stuff like that, I find retreating to be somewhat detrimental to the experience at times because I'm setting up all my pieces, I'm having fun, and so often I feel like I don't get to see the things happen. And I think that one of the most brilliant things about card games is winning that 1% chance that you mentioned, right? You said, I don't concede in Hearthstone even if I had one chance, because it's that 1% chance. Those make the best clips. Those make the best moments. Those make like the greatest kind of like just incredible things that keep you coming back to a game, right? And I feel like Marvel Snap's retreats often like just swipe at the knees, like kind of kick out or low kick like a fighting game, low kick the energy of a game when like they just leave, right? I understand the tactics of it, and maybe it's part of it because I'm a content creator and I feel like I don't like including many retreat games in my content because it feels like for that exact reason. It's like imagine shooting a fire like a huge firecracker. You're at the 4th of July and they just keep going. You see them fly up and they never explode.
It doesn't do the explosion.
And they never pop off. And like that's what retreating feels like to me. It feels like you're just taking the most interesting part of the game and removing it from the experience. That's just me over the last couple of months. I've grown increasingly frustrated with like retreats because I'm like, I want to see this stuff happen. I want to see some stuff pop off. But I do obviously respect why it exists. It's just maybe, 3 years into playing Snap, I'd like to see some games close out for a change.
Yeah, dude, I absolutely feel that. What's really funny? I did this must be almost it's probably over 3 years ago now at this point. I did 5 things that I want to see in Marvel Snap. And one of them was when you retreat, you can choose to show your hand or not show your hand. Kind of like in poker, right? Like if you fold, you don't have to flip your cards. You can put them face down, but you can flip your cards. So you be like, I bluffed, get wrecked, or something like that, right? So like having that option for when you retreat to say like show your hand, and then it plays out the turn, and then like at the very end, it's like, but they escaped, but it does show like what would have happened. I thought that would be something that could be like kind of interesting that they're getting in, but I also do think that we have content brain, and that's probably a big part of it, that we just want to see we want to see our cards do the thing.
Yeah, I think that's actually like probably over half of it, to be honest with you, because like so often I'm like, I got this really cool board, it's gonna make it, and then it's just retreat. I'm like, sad. This is very sad. But actually, from an educational content perspective, like knowing when to retreat and when to snap, like those are actually incredibly valuable skills, to be honest with you. And maybe that's something we don't focus on. Maybe we need to focus more on like, I'm gonna retreat, and this is why, and that might be helpful for players getting in actually. And even though if it doesn't make like the highlight reel of content, I think it's still actually useful. Did you just change my mind on some things?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I just give different perspectives and things like that. I do think that if we did do that, we'd look at the YouTube analytics and see everyone leaving after that game, and it's like, gotta.
Yeah, the new Alex videos are just me retreating for 7 games in a row, and everyone's like, "This sucks."
Explaining why they're such smart retreats. You like don't plan anything. It's like, I think I'm gonna retreat here. I think we're behind.
Now when we're talking about like being behind, you know what was behind in Metashare? Kang the Conqueror. How'd you like that transition there? That was a good one, eh? Kang the Conqueror saw absolutely no play, man. Literally no play. He was only ever seeing play in the Twitch Rivals tournament. in the deck that I carried to the semifinals and then to the finals. To suffer a bitter defeat, just like Kang ultimately did at the hands of the meta. But you know what? Kang the Conqueror saw a massive rework. One of the most significant reworks that they've done in the longest time in Marvel Snap. And it was a card that needed a rework. Now, I did say something, and you could verify if necessary, but in the kind of like in our like creator Discord, when they provided the notes, when they showed us this, I was excited, but I did this. I was like, I think the old Kang might be better. And my comment was, Kang nerfs Sag, right? Which I think some people were like, what's this guy talking about? But I would like to say that I do think that the original OG Kang, while having its problems, in a competitive scenario, had its moments and had its advantages. And I think that this one doesn't have that, but by gosh, is this a better card? I'll tell you right now, for a card game where you play cards and you have fun, this new Kang the Conqueror is such a fun design. I'm all for it. Even if I don't think, and I'm not convinced, it's actually that quote-unquote good, but I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Do you think Kang is good, and what do you think of the rework?
I definitely think it is good. Is it like a competitively S-tier card? I think that's kind of yet to be seen. Anytime something like this happens, you really have to look at like the long form of how, like your average result, right? Like, because you get some games where you're like, Kang is the best card in the world because you get like Iron Man Sarah or something like that, and you just blow your opponent out. But then you're sitting there with like a MODOK and a Destroyer, and you're like, well, I just wasted 2 draws for nothing, and I'm getting out of here for 1. So it really is all going to come down to the like long term. I do think it's a really good cube equity card because you have no idea what your opponent's ever going to have. Like that's kind of why in a similar way, Hulkling has seen some competitive success, like through like the Golden Gauntlet tournaments people are running it, because it's that just, you know, in a conquest game when your opponent figures out your entire 12 cards, having these surprise cards that they just cannot play around no matter what they want to do feels really, really good. And with Kang, you're basically just stuffing 4 Hulklings into your deck. The way it works with Quinjet, that you can just play Quinjet on 1 into one of your Kangs on 2, feels really, really nasty. It does make Surfer less consistent, so obviously Surfer is good with it, but you have to kind of build your Surfer to be able to win without Surfer, which is really important, or get a Kang Surfer, let's be honest. But I do think the card's like really, really solid. It might even be overtuned. I think we'll have to see again over the long term, because it is going to be a card that takes just averages of a lot of different games to really understand what it is. But very solid rework, a very fun, interesting card. I love Arishem. I know some of you guys out there probably hate Arishem. I love Arishem. This is an Arishem like lover's dream card, because you get like a lot of the cool things of Arishem, getting all these like random tools to be able to try and work into your game plan with less consistency issues, because you're only shuffling 3 additional cards instead of 12.
And I think you're touching on like all the things I love about the card. Like obviously it provides like that like surprise gameplay factor where like your opponent cannot anticipate your turn 3 Sarah, for instance, right? And I think that's actually super huge. And I think, first of all, I think it's okay to like Arishem. I think Arishem is okay to enjoy now. When Arishem was like
okay with it.
Meta breaking, I felt like I couldn't play it because it was too cringy to play it. You know what I mean? I always feel that way. I don't know if you feel that way. Like us showing up to like streams and just playing the most meta aggressive like aggro is like, it just, I don't know. It's not a good feel. Like I never do that. So I always try to like do some other stuff. And now that Arishem's kind of like, you know, not as cool, I feel like I'm allowed to play Arishem now. Just like when Shuri was super popular and like destroying the meta, like I can never play Shuri. And then when it got nerfed and everything, I was like, Shuri sucks. I'm like, I get to play Shuri now, right? So what I will say though is like what you bring up a great point. Like your opponent cannot anticipate what you're doing in those types of decks. And it's one of the reasons why even Arishem tends to be a popular conquest, right? Conquest deck. You can't anticipate what these snaps are all about. I was in a conquest match. Now I don't play a lot of conquest, but I do remember one of my prior Infinity conquest runs. I had someone turn 5 Alioth me into turn 6 Alioth. You cannot anticipate that. And no, there was no Moon Girl. No, it was legit Arishem generated Alioth into their actual Alioth, or the other way around, because it would have been more surprising the other way around. Mm-hmm. But it's like you can't like get ready for that. You just get destroyed, right? You get your cheeks clapped. There's nothing you can do about it. right? One thing I will say about the new Kang design, there's a couple things they absolutely nailed. First of all, they nailed the fact that it's creating different variants, even if you don't have them. That is such a great touch. Like, that is such a beautiful touch. But, like, why am I seeing my opponent's animation? Can we get rid of that, please? Like, it's, like, totally unnecessary for me to see their Kang animation. That's got to be a bug, right?
I don't think so. Like, a lot of decks will have. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it is like barely any decks do both. I don't mind seeing both. I mean, because otherwise you have to check the deck, and that kind of sucks. I would love if like Thanos and Arishem and Agatha have much clearer things. So like, because right now basically you should be checking your opponent's deck on turn 1 every time, and there's like a calculation you can get. Like, do they have Dormammu? Do they have Agatha? Do they have Thanos? Do they have all these different cards? You can figure it out based on the information that's there. But I don't want to do math and stuff like that, man. Just show me. So I'm on the other side of that. I like that it does it. I think that they should do that a little bit more.
See, I'm thinking that, like, if my opponent's playing Arishem, I don't need to see that animation. And we don't right now. Like, I don't want to see their Thanos stones get shuffled into the deck. Like, or if you're going to do that, maybe make it, like, less, like, right in your face. I don't want my entire screen being occupied by my opponent's deck animation and then my Kang animation after, right? It's just too much.
Sometimes they rhyme. Sometimes the two of them rhyme. Like, it's like something your fate and something that. I actually really like the double Kangs. Like, sometimes the combinations of them actually kind of hit the little like words that they say.
That's funny. I never actually paid attention to that, but I will now. But yeah, I think this card's really well designed. I think that the design team really stepped it up. It reminds me of Moira X. Like, these are just really well, thoughtfully designed cards. Now, in terms of the early statistics we have, according to Untap-based statistics, now because of the recency of the patch, I'm using stats from rank 80 to 100, so there is some bot inflation there, just so we can get a larger sample size. But at a 7% popularity for Kang, it's running a 48.8% win rate and a barely positive cube rate. So statistically, even with bots who might be more savage than they used to be, it's not performing that great. It's not necessarily a huge standout from a performance perspective. What you said is true, though. We need a much larger sample size because Kang, being what it is, an RNG-centric card, it's hard to determine what its true power level is until we get that large sample size, because it is like, it's going to run off the law of averages. Absolutely. There's no question about that. And currently performing as expected really well in Arishem. In fact, Arishem Loki is going to be its highest performing shell, followed by a Arishem Thanos deck. Actually, I stand corrected. Arishem Thanos has a 56% win rate over 590 games, and then at 620 games, a Arishem Loki version is running approximately 53%. So some good stats overall for Kang the Conqueror. Now, we are going to be moving on to our prior card that released last week, and that is going to be Jim Hammond. Jim Hammond did release last week, and little ho-hum reception. In terms of overall stats and stuff like that, Cozy and I came in at approximately 1.5 to 2 star range. We were not Jim Hammond Human Torch believers. Bynx, where did you stand on Jim Hammond going into the week, and where do you stand now, now that you've had a chance to actually play with him?
For me, Jim Hammond works with only one card, really, and that's Fallen One. It's decks where you're trying to get a huge Fallen One to get a bunch of additional energy. I don't really see almost any one-drop just being worth it to get, like, 1 point a turn with Electro or 1 point a turn with Arishem. I just don't see that being something that's worthwhile for an inclusion in the deck. But in that Fallen One deck, you know, if you get, like, a 13 power Fallen One, this gains 7 energy, or it's 7 power, and then if it's magic, it doubles that, right? So I think that that's pretty much the only deck that it goes in. So realistically, how good is Jim Hammond? It's how good is that Fallen One deck, and I don't really think it's that solid. It can feel really nice when you get like a Wong Shuri setup, you get like a 20 power one, you get a massive Jim Hammond, you're going to win those games because you have like infinite energy, right? But building those decks to like have enough big cards to actually take advantage of it and have the setup cards to get it hasn't felt good for me. I don't know if you found like too many really, really good shells that it works out for you. And but yeah, I just think overall it kind of just only fits in with Fallen One. I hope that there's more flexibility in the future if other cards come that can augment like how much energy that you have on a turn. Maybe some combination of them can make Jim Hammond work. But yeah, I think this card just lives or dies on how good that Fallen One deck is, and it's kind of just in meme deck tier in my opinion.
No, I absolutely agree 100%. And I did test it in Hope Summers. It felt largely unnecessary, right? I was running Hope Summers, I was running the Luna Snows, Surges, and stuff like that to try to reduce the mana cost and stuff like that. There was options and like opportunities to generate that extra energy, but he was never worth it. It just wasn't worth it, especially as a card that had to be out early to take advantage. It's not an ongoing card. It's not like Mobius where you can just throw it down. Sorry, Morbius, so you can just throw it down after you've discarded a bunch of stuff and get the value from it. It has to be on the field of play, so it has to be played out on turn 1, 2, or whatever. And the other thing is that like it's not just a 1 or 2 card combo. Like you mentioned the Fallen One, and I agree, it's best in the Fallen One deck, but it's not just the Fallen One you need. Like if you think about that combo, it's like at least a 3-card combo for Jim Hammond, because you need Jim Hammond 1, you need either Shuri or Symbiote Spider-Man 2, and then you need Fallen 1, 3. It's a 3-card combo to get the pot. It's just too much. It's too much for a 1-2. It's just not worth it. And it feels like those decks are like one tricks, where it's like if you don't get the exact line that you're seeking, everything just falls apart. Now, thankfully, that deck usually runs like the Nimrod shells and stuff like that, which can be cool. I do like that as well. And I do like that Fallen One list specifically because it does allot you at least 11 energy for turn 6, where you can play a Zola Black Panther combination, which I think that most people aren't prepared for because the deck is just not popular, right? So people aren't going to anticipate, oh, it's turn 6, and they literally pull off a Zola BP combo. Like, they're not going to anticipate that. So there is some cube equity there just because the deck's not popular. But Jim Hammond feels so cuttable there. And when he pops off, he pops off. He gets to big power. And you're right, having magic there is pretty awesome, but I think that one of the powers of that deck is that you can do so much on turn 6 with that Fallen One energy, right? And if you're running magic just to make Jim Hammond pop off more, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it feels kind of rough, right? So for me, Jim Hammond has definitely unimpressed, despite the fact he can put up some decent numbers. He has a really high ceiling, but a floor that's like a trench in the ocean. You know what I mean? The floor is way too low on Jim Hammond.
And the crazy thing is, too, this is a 1-drop, and it got released in the probably only time we're not going to have Killmonger. Because I'm pretty sure Killmonger is going to go back to what it was. I think it's fine if it does. Like, the world with no Killmonger is kind of weird. Maybe they don't want that to happen. But, like, it's underperforming now in a world where the single biggest and most important, like, 1-cost counter card basically doesn't exist outside of Destroy that's using it offensively, right? So I really don't see, unless there's a lot of different support, or maybe that Fallen One deck, it's a couple other pieces that can make it more consistent. Maybe like a third enabler of a powerful turn 5 Fallen One outside of just the Shuri or the Symbiote. Maybe that ends up like causing this to work. But yeah, I definitely think Fallen One is a cool, fun, interesting, like meme card, and that's kind of where it's going to stick. At least that's what I expect from it.
Yeah, I would agree. And Jim Hammond, again, using statistics from 80 to 100 according to Untapped, based off this latest patch, only seeing 1.5% meta popularity, so seeing almost no play. No one cared about this card. And I think a major part of that, too, is that I think that once Glenn verified that the Fallen One was the primary combination, and a lot of people skipped Fallen One, would you invest 12,000 tokens to try to test this? No way, right? There's too much of a barrier of entry for Jim Hammond. Saw almost no play. And even there, it had a negative cube rate and a 47% win rate. So definitely not performing particularly good, Jim Hammond, which is a little unfortunate because maybe the card one day will have an opportunity to shine. But talking about cards that have opportunities to shine, I suspect that we just might be able to get a card this week that'll have a positive impact on the meta, and that just might be Warlock. Warlock is a 3/3 that reads, activate. For each unspent energy, give a card in your hand -1 cost. This is potentially a very exciting card, one that I think has a very high degree of potential. Could it even replace Sarah in Surfer? I mean, listen, Sarah's already been replaced to some degree, but can this play a very similar role? I wonder, and I ask myself. In preview, I came in at 4 stars. Cozy came in at 4.5. Bynx, I pass it on to you. From 1 to 5 rating, what do you anticipate Warlock being in the meta?
So I'm going to rate this more on what decks I feel like it's going to be in. Maybe not this card's power overall. I'm going to say like a 2.5. I'm going to say like a 2.5. So I think this card is very powerful, and it's really nice to have another like big way to take advantage of unspent energy. Because right now essentially like there's the high evo package and different things like that don't really take advantage of a lot of unspent energy. Like going 5 or 1 like missed energy is kind of the same, right? So outside of that, we basically are looking at now Sunspot and She-Hulk, which have found ways to find these really cool decks of, utilizing both of them either with Infinite and more of like an all-in package to try and get that 30-point final turn huge bomb play, or with just kind of like some more shrinky-dink stuff, or even like Moon Girl stuff to copy the She-Hulk and then do a skip. So having another activator for this, I really think that can gel the whole deck together. And the deck that I think it's actually going to be best in, I think She-Hulk Infinite probably gets a boost from this and still wants to play this, but any deck that's running like a She-Hulk, Moon Girl, Quinjet package is going to absolutely love this card, because you already want to be Moon Girling on 4, so you'd play this on 3, you'd Moon Girl on 4, get 2 She-Hulks, you'd pass on 5, get a bunch of discounts into your hand, get 2 1-cost She-Hulks, and then just go crazy on the final turn, right? And you could do that with, Victoria Hand and Quinjet and all these other ways to get discounts to get some really, really crazy plays. Obviously, the thing I'm not looking forward to is that the week that this comes out, we're going to see Mobius everywhere. Everyone knows how I feel about that card. I hate it. So good luck having fun with this the first week, because everyone's going to be playing that dude. But outside of that, if Mobius isn't super prevalent in the meta, because that is the huge stopgap for that deck, because if you skip turn 5, you're expecting to get all these discounts. You're playing a good player. They snapped and then they saved the Mobius for turn 5. Then what are you going to do? Play a 6/9 She-Hulk like from hand for full cost? Like, then you're just screwed, right? So it's kind of, because that deck is so stopgap by a popular tech card, I don't really see it expanding, which is why I'll say that like these She-Hulk Moon Girl lists are probably going to be the best fit for it. That deck might be pretty good, but because it's stopgap, that's why I'm getting with the 2.5 stars.
I absolutely feel that. And I was actually going to mention that this is one of those cards that's probably going to feel terrible in release week because of Triple M. And for what it's worth, you are a known hater of Mobius and Mobius. Like,
probably like the most known
yeah.
hater, I would imagine.
Yeah. And it is a pretty anti-fun card. It is. Especially considering how many cards they release that this automatically just deletes. Like, it just completely destroys it, right? And for a while, when we saw like the 2/2 Mr. Fanta, we were seeing a lot of Mobius and Mobius to try to counter that a little bit. And then he kind of quieted down for a bit. But you're right. When Warlock is released, he's going to be back full force.
Everywhere.
And it's unfortunate because like I'm too excited about Evo. Evo is one of my favorite archetypes in Marvel Snap. I love the design of Evo and it's evolutionized cards, evolved cards. I don't know why I had to make that harder than it needed to be. Because one of the things I was thinking about, if you play Warlock on turn 3 in an Evo deck, right? You're able to play Cyclops on turn 4. Full dead energy, because Cyclops often is best played on turn 4, even though if you play it on 3, it's fine too. But you're able to kind of position it in a way where you can kind of do maximum damage, stuff like that. And when you skip turn 5, you got the Sunspot and She-Hulk, which are going to pop the hell off. Now, one concern I have, and I have not had a chance to test it yet, because She-Hulk happens at the end of the turn, this is going to activate basically, like, I wonder, because it's technically activating, but it's like the end of the turn.
It.
Yeah, is it going to hit it first and then She-Hulk like absorb
imagine,
unnecessary hits? Like that's what I imagine is going to happen too. That might lower the ceiling a bit, no?
A little. I mean, if it's two, like one hit's fine because that'll make it free. Because if you're skipping on turn 6, then every hit is going to suck. But if you're skipping turn 5 and you don't have any way to buff the energy, one hit is fine because you're going to get it for free. But like I can see like 4 hits going into one of your She-Hulks and you're just like, why did I even play this dang card, man? I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, if you're full skipping 5, right, you're floating 5 energy, it's going to do 5 procs across your hand. It doesn't have to just hit She-Hulk once. If it hits like the Infinite once, that's still 6 energy, right?
Yeah.
Like you still play the 1/9 She-Hulk and then the 5/20 Infinite. So like that still kind of works, I guess. But I guess it does blow up some of the synergy. And I guess that's like when Fastos hits cards that have already been discounted. Right? And instead of buffing them, it tries to discount them even further. It feels like wasted potential. So yeah, I guess that's one of the things.
Mobius is there and it tries to discount it and it's like, very fun.
Yeah. But for Evo specifically, it does allow you to pull off these Infinite combos on turn 6. Like Infinite and She-Hulk generally needed magic to work properly. Like you generally needed to have that turn 7. Because you're floating on turn 6, which also made it a little more...
Cass came in and solved that issue a lot with the card that you can play in and then kind of guarantee it. But yeah, no, I agree. It really felt like you needed magic because Yeah, almost every deck will run Magic at least as a backup plan because you want to have 2 ways to make sure you can do it.
Yeah, conversely, you could also play Luna Snow. Luna Snow was a 3/6 that provided that extra energy that would give you enough to play both on turn 6. Because I think that when you have something as like Merlin, who I'm just going to go out and say, I think Merlin's probably the most underrated card in Snap right now. I think Merlin is such a damn good card that's not seeing enough play. I think people know it's good, and I think people play it, but I don't think it's getting the respect it deserves. I think Merlin is fantastic, and if Merlin is popular, you ain't playing Magic because it's just not worth. And also, if Kangers goes off and Erisham gets popular, those decks run Legion, and that could be potentially problematic for Magic. So I don't know if we want to completely focus too much on She-Hulk. Now, I'm going to shift this towards Surfer a little bit. It's a 3-cost card. We'd be damned if we didn't bring up Surfer. But I actually think it might be legit there because for Danger, the nice thing about it is that we're starting to move away from Sarah Surfer. Okay, we're moving away from Sarah Surfer. As a result, we have an increase in opportunity to play like a 3-drop. Did I say Danger? I meant Warlock. I think I said Danger. When you're playing Warlock, you're able to skip turn 5.
Kind of makes sense.
And you're able to like discount things while also still having a very impactful turn 6, which is usually what Sarah would seek. The only challenge that I see here is I think that Warlock skipping turn 5 is rough for like the Galacta lines because now you're forfeiting a Galacta proc. And so it becomes a question of, okay, what if you don't? What if you don't skip turn 5? What if you just play another 3-drop and you float 2 energy and that gets randomly dispersed across your hand? Is that good enough?
It might be. Like if you're getting no other discounts, right? Like the big thing with Surfer is you want to get 3 that are 2 is kind of how you like really push out that round. So like if you're only skipping 2 and you have 2 2-drops, well, you're kind of in the exact same position you were in, right? Because you can't play like a third 3-drop, which is the whole thing. So you could play 2 full or 2 F, and then maybe you can fit in a Forge or something like that. I could see like some kind of Surfer Shell, because I do think that you'd want to go in with multiple ways to take advantage of it. Like maybe in Surfer you can just kind of do playing a 3-drop and then trying to skip a couple, and then maybe have like Mr. F and a couple other ways to find that like additional discount, or maybe you're playing Fastos is your way to kind of like get those additional discounts to do it. But I do really think that like you'd want to use She-Hulk, Sunspot, and I'd be surprised if decks with Warlock are ever popular that don't have both She-Hulk and Sunspot, because I feel like when you have 3 of a card that can take advantage of something, that's really when you get like crazy consistency in Snap with 12 card decks, right? So like you have a very good chance of having 2 of them at the right time, whereas like if you only have 2 in, you have a pretty good chance of having 1 of them, but having 2 of them is pretty rare. So I feel like you'll want to have that redundancy of having all these different ways to take advantage of that skip turn 5 if you're kind of have that into your game plan, or a little bit less. But I could see like I don't mind just skipping like 1 or 2 cards if you have a bunch of other kind of like discount cards packaged into it. I would just be surprised to see a competitive Warlock deck that wouldn't utilize that redundancy of having those 3 cards that all get a pretty even like power boost from the ability of skipping turns. Like you get the discounts from the Warlock, and then you get the same amount of discounts onto your She-Hulk, and then you get a little bit of power onto the board, so you're not like fully skipping. So I'd be surprised with it, but I could see some Surfer Cooks maybe interested in trying it out a little bit, or you can get it on Kang, of course. You can have it on Kang.
Yeah, you get it on Kang, that's right. And the one thing I want to bring up here is, so Sarah, who's on the screen, has been largely cut from Surfer decks. Now, I actually still like Sarah Surfer. I play a lot of Surfer. I still like the Sarah variations. But one thing I'll add here, so you have Warlock skipping turn 5, right? And providing 5 energy to the hand, randomly dispersed. Or play a 3-drop, disperse 2 energy randomly to your hand. Sarah is a 5/5 body that you're foregoing with Warlock, right? When you're skipping that turn 5, you're foregoing that. Mm-hmm. And with Sarah, it's essentially +3 energy for a Surfer deck because you play 3 cards, right? So imagine you're getting 3 extra energy, right? Mm-hmm. So Warlock can, in theory, skip the entire turn and provide you with 2 extra energy, but it's inconsistent in its application. Sarah will consistently provide that energy, provide a 5/5 body, and still gets cut from the list. And that's where, as a Surfer player, I'm a little concerned with people leaning into the Warlock Surfer side. Now, potentially, and here's my last question with regards to Warlock, because I don't think, I wanted to compare the two, Surfer and, Sarah and Warlock, because I think it was worth the discussion. But let's say you're on turn 3. You play turn 3, it's Warlock. Turn 4, okay, you play I don't know. You're looking at your hand, you're like, okay, I got to play another 3-drop. Should I activate Warlock to bring that extra energy going into turn 5 so I can play 2 3s? You know what I mean? And then turn 6, play 2 3s. You are kind of shifting the way the game is played, and that's what I was thinking about. Is there a chance that Warlock will allow you to play a 3-drop on turn 4, float that energy into turn 5, so you have 6 energy, 3-drop, turn 6, 3-drop, 3-drop. And that is simply the best way to play Warlock, as opposed to completely flipping turn 5.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that would work. I mean, I'm still pretty locked in that I'm pretty sure they're going to have all of them. So in my opinion, in a Warlock Surfer, you're also going to have Sunspot and She-Hulk in that deck, even if you're not using Moon Girl or anything like that. Just kind of like a backup, right? So that's why I think like it's not really the same as Sarah, because if you're skipping turn 5, I would be putting those other resources in, so I'd be getting more out of it, because I don't think you want to skip turn 5 just for Warlock. Like maybe sometimes you do, but the randomness can really mess with you maybe sometimes, and maybe it's not as consistent. That's why I feel like you want those redundancy cards so you can get a lot of power after skipping, because skipping a whole turn in Marvel, you only get 6 of them, man. So like skipping a whole turn is it's a big investment of what you're doing. So I would say like if you know, in that case where you're getting a 1-cost She-Hulk to be able to play, you're getting a bunch of different things, I think that absolutely goes what Sarah can do in that same situation. But it just, I think it just kind of depends on deck building, and if that shell ends up, I guess, really working for it. The problem with like just skipping like 1 energy to get 1 energy later, it's like we already have Cass that can basically do that, right? Like you can, or Luna Snow, like we talked about both of these already. Like instead of just playing Warlock, you could just play Luna Snow to get that. Obviously, you give it to your opponent as well. So that's something that people don't think about too much with Luna Snow, or enough, in my opinion. So it is like a risk factor to that. But even just playing a Cass and then playing like a powerful 3-drop as opposed to a Warlock, you're kind of getting that same effect of skipping 1 turn. So I would be surprised if a Warlock that can skip 1 or sometimes 4 or sometimes 5 with no other support will work super well with Surfer, because I think there's other options to get that from it. But I am interested to see if there's some way to incorporate more of these strategies into Surfer to fit Warlock into it, because he's a 3/5 in Surfer, which is a lot better than a 3/3.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, right? And I don't know, I'm interested in seeing the card, and it's one of those cards that I think that like has a really interesting and cool design. And you bring up like, well, are there other options? Like, well, there's like Jennifer Kale sees almost no play as a 2/3 that essentially floats the 1 energy on activate, which is essentially what I just suggested with Warlock. However, Warlock would get the benefit of getting hit by a Surfer, whereas Jennifer Kale does not get that benefit. So maybe there's that, because theoretically Warlock is then a 3/5. So yeah. I will say that while I was excited for Warlock, I think you've brought me down to earth a little bit. Whereas like I still see its potential, but I start to lean more towards like the 3 range. I wonder if 4 is high. And maybe I'm just a product of someone who like can be sold on things. Because if Cozy came on, I was like, yo, this card's gonna go. I'm like, we're going to the rocket ship. We're going to the moon. Like, I don't know if I'm like impressionable in that way, right? You just brought the grounded response of like, this card's probably mid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe
and
better
don't get me
than
wrong,
mid.
I'm really excited to play like a She-Hulk, like Victoria Hand, Quinjet version of Warlock, being able to like copy multiple She-Hulks and get a bunch of stuff in my hand, get a bunch of discounts onto it, and burst out on the final turn. Hopefully once Mobius clears up, or if Mobius isn't seeing that much play. So I think the deck will be really fun and really exciting. It's really just the stopgap of a deck like that having such an easy and now okay tempo counter. If they freaking buff Mobius, dude, I'll never forgive them. Like an okay tempo counter that you can just slot into your deck, where if this hits over 10% of don't Mobius jump scare me. Where if this deck ever becomes like over 10% share of the meta and it's powerful, it's very easy. You're like, okay, well, I'll just win 10% of my games by playing this card, and they will do nothing. I will snap. They will skip turn 5. I will play Mobius and I will win. So it's interesting. But yeah, I think that deck is going to be a very, very fun deck to play like She-Hulk, Moon Girl stuff with it. I'm really, really excited to play with the card, even though I know I'm going to get my dreams crushed by Mobius.
Yeah. So Mobius was one of the cards that was not impacted by the tech nerf, which is kind of funny. Now, it's not part of our official discussion list, but if you'd like the soapbox, to put under your feet there. Would you like to just pop off and go off as to why you hate Mobius and Mobius so much? I'm going to turn off my mic and sit back.
Sure. For me, it's just a design philosophy thing. And people who know games more than me disagree with me on this, but so it's just a personal thing on my end. But I just hate that this card that basically nullifies so many different strategies in Marvel Snap exists that you can just like slot into your deck. So like the biggest problem isn't like the monster meta deck. It usually comes up to stop. The biggest problem is that as someone who likes to play random garbage all the time and random different decks, it's like I'll be playing Black Bolt Stature for the first time in forever, and then I'll run into 3 Mobiuses in a row, and I'm just like, you're not even teching against me, dude. Like, you don't care about what I'm doing. You don't care about my deck, but you're just playing this card that says, hey, your deck doesn't work. I've always really hated that. I think that this card and Super Scroll are two of like the designs in Marvel Snap that I think detest the most. Because like Super Scroll is like a just super degenerate. It will either win you by 1 billion points or do nothing card. And Mobius is just kind of this, hey, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter if you're playing any of these, 60 cards that relies on energy reduction, then you don't get to play the game. So I just don't personally like that. I think that it's a fun killer card. And I find that my personal fun playing, the way that I play, the more Mobius is in the meta, the more it restricts what I feel like I can do as a deck builder to be able to do creative things, because so many decks are just shut down by this whenever it's prevalent in the meta. So that's my like couple minute rundown of like my personal bias and hatred towards the design of Mobius and what it does to Snap.
Wow. Super Scroll enjoyers in shambles right now, taking a stray bullet to the chest, man. That's crazy, right? Like, even Super Scroll, oh my gosh, when you refer to it as a complete degen card, I actually was like trying to hold back my laughter. I've never
so
heard Super
degenerate,
Scroll.
dude. Like, it does nothing so many games, and then it's like 1,000 points one game, and it's just like, all right, dude, you played that card, that's fine. And it's one of those cards that if you get off a Kang or like an Erisham, those are the cards that are just like, oh my god, dude. Yeah, this card exists in the game. That's right. That's fair. That's true.
That's so funny. We got to talk about Danger next. Danger is the card, and also let us know in the comment section what do you think about Bynx's take. Do you hate Super Scroll as much as Bynx, and do you hate Mobius and Mobius as much as Bynx? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I still can't believe Super Scroll took us straight. I don't think the card's that bad. I see what you're saying though. He's either completely garbage or he's the most broken card in your deck.
It was the mode, the Grand Arena mode is what radicalized me, because like everyone was just stuffing Super Scroll into their decks because you have that extra energy so you can run this hyper degen card. And it's just like, oh, did you want to play with your sweet like Mr. Fantastic deck? Oh, that sucks. I play Super Scroll, so I do everything that you do with one card. Ha ha ha. I just hate that. It radicalized me, man.
That's so funny. For what it's worth, these variants have some of the best art because they do a really good job of like incorporating all the different cards that it's kind of absorbing. But I understand your frustration. Even the base one, honestly, this is a really nice base card, I think.
Look at his face, dude. He knows what he's doing.
I know. Actually, if I could make a statement for who I think has one of the best base arts in the game, I'm gonna say I don't know why. I think the Gamora base art is so good.
Really good, yeah. That kind of like looking off to the side, holding the hilt. It's a good one, and that's a deep cut because I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that, but I definitely agree with that, man. It looks really good. Man, there's a couple new cards that have some really really good base art.
Jim Hammond.
Pulling up my collection. You mentioned Moira X just because I see it there. I just want to give a shout out now that I have a platform. Whoever designed that animation, Second Dinner, give them $1 million. Like, that might be one of the coolest animations in like any card game I've ever seen. Yeah. It's just like a perfect. It shows what it does. It shows the cards. Like, as you're playing it, it looks so cool. The sound is really satisfying that happens when it dies and they go into your hand. Like, oh man, dude, they cooked it. They've been cooking really well. Like, Omega Sentinel has crazy awesome animations. Like, Sparky's animation that you're just covering looks incredible. So I think that they took like the criticisms that people were saying that a lot of animations would show up and not be there right away, that would be disappointing. I really feel like they took that to heart, man.
Well, yeah, like
Terex's animation is sick, man. Just bonk, 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 bonk.
The card releases no animation because they're too busy doing Moira X's at the time.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it took a lot of time.
But anyways, so Danger, I actually unlocked Danger rather quickly in Deadpool's Diner, and I'm actually excited to cook around this card a bit. I haven't had a chance to play much with it. Actually, I haven't played at all with it. I'll be honest with you.
I haven't played at all with it either.
Okay,
I've just been buying borders, man. I'm just spending nachos like crazy, dude. I'm buying 12 Black Cosmic borders. Give me all the emotes. Oh, man, dude. It's a great time to be a Snap player.
Oh, yes. It is a great time to be a Marvel Snap player. But, all right, let's talk about Danger in a preview sense here, because I'm actually super excited for next week, because while I'm going to rate Danger 2 stars, because I think the 4/6 is just not quite good enough, but I almost want to build a deck that is like, just destroy everything they do. Like Gambit, Danger, Cobra, Spider-Man 29, like all the FU, I'm destroying your stuff decks. It's going to be terrible, but I kind of want to try it. And I think
and
that
then
Danger...
you play Beth by killing all their cards.
Yes. It's unfortunate that they nerfed Killmonger as much as they did, because I think that card would have been really good in that deck. But anyways, I think that Danger does have potential, especially since, although not particularly meta relevant right now, we do have decks that do perform really well in those buff shells. Like America Chavez is a good card now. It's a better card than it was before. America Chavez is playable. Fastos, like those buff style decks, they kind of fell off once Mr. Fanta got nerfed from a 2/2 and he went up to a 3 cost. But honestly, Danger loves that free buffing. The only problem is that it's going to hit the rock, or it's going to hit some piece of garbage on, like the RNGs is what's going to kill it. It's not destroying the highest power card available to it. It's just going to destroy anything there, which should be good, but I suspect it's not going to be.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So I brought some notes on this because I also haven't played with the card, but I've kind of assessed it. So it seems like it's a very just serviceable 4-drop. Like you play this on turn 4 or 5, you're going to kill something that's 5 to 0 power and maybe has an effect that's really powerful. Like if there's a meta where there's a lot of just cards that get thrown out like Valentina that don't really have other cards over it, and you can even like just target those cards. Like I feel like this might be good at like sniping out like Mobius would be a pretty nice one to get out of the way, or like some of these other like 3 to 5 power cards, trying to snipe them by like having priority, playing this on that lane by itself with priority and activating before they can do anything about it. But it seems too fair. Like, and Marvel Snap, I feel like you're what you do kind of as power creep goes, and this happens with every card game. You kind of you can't really just do fair things. You know, like Sentinel 3 years ago was a really good card because you get to play a 2/3, it's good rate, and then you get another 2/3, and then you can play it. Now the cards does nothing, and then like you never see play outside of C3 where it's a 2/9. So like Danger, it just feels like this very fair card. I said it's a mini Thing First Steps, basically, right? Like Thing First Steps is a 5/6. It grows, and then you have to meet a condition, and then it does the exact same thing, destroy an enemy card here with less power. So that's the card that I'm like, I feel like it like might be decent because like there's a pretty good flip that you can get out of it, especially if you can time it right and get it played out. But there's a lot of competition in the 4-drop slot, especially if, you know, the Shang nerf goes back and different things like that. There's a lot of cards that you tend to just want to play in the 4-drop slot. So I feel like this is going to kind of fall down to a card that rarely sees play, but sees maybe a little play in some niche decks. But it's one of those cards that, like, if draft mode ever comes, like, banger draft mode card. If you get it with, like, Kang or Arishem or any of these random things, you're going to be really, really happy to have it. It just doesn't feel unfair enough to make the cut for the top 12 in a deck.
No, I absolutely agree. And, like, if you think about the kind of decks it wants to even play in, again, there's the buff-centric deck, but those types of decks aren't carried by cards like Danger. They're carried by the Broods, the Mr. Sinisters, right? They're carried by things that put power on the board and replicate the buffs that they're receiving. And so Danger kind of sits at odds with those a little bit. So I absolutely agree there. I don't see it being a key play in like, well, we'll play this Danger. Like I thought of like, again, destroy everything on their board, finish it off with null death type thing. But that takes a lot. That's a lot of effort, right? Like, and I don't know if the payoff's ever going to be there. And so, like, okay, this might be Cove, but what if Nidalvalier and, like, Mojo World are hot locations? Is that Danger feasting or what?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Nidalvalier's, I guess it's kind of similar, but you are just killing more power because both of them will be +5. But Mojo World, this thing would be an absolute monster slotting. I mean, or the Thing is already kind of a monster in Mojo World. And the cool thing about this, it's not like the Thing where you have to commit to fulfilling a lane, right? Like, I feel like that is what pulls back the Thing First Steps, because I feel like at its core, the Thing First Steps is a crazy powerful card. Yeah. The fact that you have to fill it, and then you're playing a 5-drop in that lane, maybe you play like a 1-drop and 2 2-drops. It's just a huge energy investment into that lane that you're probably going to win. But then if your opponent like sees it and then they abandon that lane, then they can pretty easily fight you for the other 2, right? So this kind of gives you a similar effect without the problem. Might be a little bit kind of meta dependent, but again, I like, just from a single what can this card do perspective, I definitely think it's probably a little underlooked. I don't even think, at least for me, I don't look at this as a card I want to buff, because like, even if you get it over the hit for some of these other like bigger cards, it's like usually there's going to be other cards in that lane, so you're still up to a coin flip. So I don't know if I see, I guess as much as you do, the benefit of having a deck that tries to buff this power, except for like those really big kill shots that maybe you get it on like a single lane to flip it against a decently sized card. I just more see it as like a card that you can snipe off a Victoria Hand, or, you know, a Hope Summers, or one of these cards that your opponent's just going to play out in the early game. Then you could just trade for it cleanly with a 4/6, clear up that spot, maybe take it away in effect, and then try and like win out on the final game, or in the final couple of turns.
I do agree. Like, if you're going the buff-centric route that I kind of suggested before, you're just setting yourself up for a bit of like sadness. Like, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Like, I got Danger to 410, and then like it hits a rock, and you're like, sick, right? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna happen for sure. Whereas you're like just playing a 4/6 and not worrying about that garbage would have been just fine. I think my major concern here is that, like, it's like you mentioned, it's probably a fine card, but it's not good enough to like really push any existing archetype any further. It doesn't slot well into anything that exists currently. And for that reason, I think that it's very unlikely that this card becomes meta relevant. And does it even need a buff? Man, I'm just thinking about it. Like, it's silly to be like, does this card need a buff? Whereas like we haven't even played it, but it's like, it just doesn't seem like it calls to me as a card that like is going to be highly impactful. We'll have to see, because I am excited to check it out, play it, give it a shot. And, you know, I'm still working on some new stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm a little hesitant on Danger coming in at 2 stars. Do you want to give a star rating? I don't think you actually gave a star rating.
Yeah, I think 2 stars sounds right. I mean, it's one of those cards where it's like, again, if you got this in draft mode, like as a singular, just vacuum power level card, it's really strong. Like, if you're just playing a random set of garbage and like you see this come off Airship, you're stoked. So I think it comes down to that. It's one of those cards where it's like, in a vacuum, this is a very, very powerful singular effect that can do really, really well in the right situations. But it's just finding that deck that needs it and doesn't want to use its deck slots to do some other kind of like combined synergy that gets over top of it, because you just don't really see those vacuum cards being super, super relevant unless they're like winning you games consistently. And I don't think this is going to win you games consistently. I think that it'll help you tempo out and be in a better spot. Again, just hard to find its way into a final 12.
No, I would agree. And that's going to take us to our next topic of conversation, which is the newly revamped Deadpool's Diner. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love it. I think they nailed the design of Deadpool's Diner. It took a bunch of iterations. They had to get here eventually with changing some stuff around. I think that this is by far one of the most fun experiences I've had in Snap in a while. I think the way that the bubs work, how you are betting your own bubs and it's independent from what your opponent is a nice deviation from the Snap mechanic while still being familiar. I think that's really cool, and it probably helps to tone down the tilt a little bit. And I got to tell you, and Bynx, you mentioned it before, I probably have to get this emote, right? Like, it's 1,000.
Buy it right now, dude.
I have 900.
That'll take you 15 minutes. Like, it's crazy how easy it is to get nachos, man. You just spam it. Like, everyone's coming together now to do the, like, you point and then everyone snaps and then you both retreat later on turn 4.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's crazy, man. It's just like, I was sitting there watching football and I think I got like 1,500 nachos, like literally not even looking at my phone, just like clicking it, like burning through. So if you are someone, because okay, this is something I wrote down. I can guarantee you that there will not be a more generous limited time mode than this probably ever. And most people will probably look at that and be like, oh, that sucks. It's like, they're just giving everything away right now, man. Like I said, like I haven't even focused on it too terribly much, and now I've gotten 10 copper borders, 12 cosmic black borders. I've gotten 3 emotes. I've basically gotten everything I want from the shop, like all the emotes. I've filled out all the credits. I got danger. And you can just keep playing this and farming this as much as you can. So if you're someone who loves cosmetics and wants to take advantage of what I am pretty sure is going to be the most generous they will ever be with like your time spent versus consumables and unlockables and cosmetics that you can actually get, keep on top of it, buy all the things that come up on the top as much as you can, and milk this for as much as you can, because this is a free-to-play player's dream. Like, usually you can't have the luxury of buying all these borders when you're free to play, right? Because all of your resources have to go into getting the new cards. So this is your chance to just go buck wild and get really cool things to mess with it. And I do think that they're going to adjust this and probably look at this and never do something like this again, which you can look at as second dinner bad. That's fine. I just, from a business perspective, there's no way this is going how they thought that it would. So they're probably going to tighten it up in the future. So take advantage of it while you can.
You're absolutely correct in that this is probably way too generous. Like, admittedly, for a free-to-play game that relies on cosmetics to keep the lights on, this is way too generous. Like, I unlocked the card, right? Like, danger. In, like, what, 3 hours maybe of just casually playing the mode, which honestly was so much fun anyway. I had so much fun playing the mode as it was because of the changes that they made, and man, I was like, I got that fast. You get premium mystery variants, tons of like progression alongside the credits, the borders, and then like you're right, these like daily chef's deals. Like, I've clearly bought a bunch of the fire borders. I think I need this domino emote eventually. Blue Cosmic's like my favorite of the borders. Like, they're just giving it away right now. And so, like, honestly, I will say this. I'll preface this by saying, when the next Deadpool Diner or the next game mode comes out and it's not this, you can't be mad. You can't. It's just
they will. What do you mean they will?
They shouldn't. It's just this is probably way too far on the other end.
People are mad at this one, man.
I know what they're mad. How are people mad at
the
this?
First day, dude? If you look at the Discord for like the first day, dude, people were so upset about this mod. It's just the immediate, like, just people just find
so
what's
sad,
wrong.
man.
What's wrong with it?
Like, you know what? Second dinner, again, they take L's and they create their own L's very often, but it can be heartbreaking where like they throw up a huge dub, like a layup, and you know, people still give them a hard time, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you got to accept this for what it is. This is a very generous game mode, which basically gave away a Series 4 card. And you're not even accounting for the fact that they brought back a very generous login bonus. Like, this is one of the best login bonuses they had, where you're going to get a Series 4 pack, which, I mean, it hasn't been answered yet, but I wonder what happens for people that are Series 4 complete when they get that pack.
You'll get the tokens. Yeah.
You get the tokens straight up? That's
when you crack those when you're done, there was early on there was that Series 5 that everyone got that had the same thing, where once you're complete, you just get the token value of buying it directly. So yeah, really, really sick.
Yeah, but I just think, honestly, they did a tremendous job. And I don't know if this was like an intentional, you know what? We need a win for the community. Let's get people hyped up about Snap again type of mode. Or if someone if they let the interns work on this and the interns like did horrible math. Like, I really don't know how we got what we have, but I'm not complaining. I am having a tremendous amount of fun getting all the cosmetics. And I already am a collector of like cosmetics. I just love them. I just think they nailed it, man. I think they nailed it. And this also gives me hope, too, because Deadpool's Diner started in such a rough spot. It really was not great. It started in a really rough spot, and the next iteration they had done was like merely just barely better than the first. They fixed some of the pain points. This one here is clearly superior in every single way to the prior ones, and it gives me hope for the other game modes. How can they make High Voltage even better? Because it's probably the weakest one now. How can they make Sanctum Showdown even better? Please bring back. I don't even know how they're gonna make the Grand Arena better, but like, if they do it better, like, beautiful. If these new game modes can really amp up the rewards and the excitement for Snap, I think they're gonna pay dividends for people. And the last thing I'll say before I pass it off to you, because I know I've been ranting here, one thing I really love about this mode is I love the reduction of stakes. I love the fact that there's no retreating, and I've built a collection over the years, and I want to see my collection do things. I want to play my cards, and I want to see stuff happen, because one of the things that I love about Snap is just how beautiful the cards are, how great the interactions are, and how fantastic the wins and losses can be. And this mode lets me just experience the collection I've built. It lets me experiment with, the Agatha decks, and helps me try to cook something with Morgan Le Fay. Like, I'm able to experiment and not worry about rank and stuff like that. And so for me, this has been an absolute banger of a release. I absolutely love it.
So I was debating on holding my tongue at this, but like to see you say how amazing Deadpool's Diner is after you had to commentate the Deadpool's Diner tournament and that whole fiasco happened, I think that speaks really, really highly past a lot of different things for how good this is with Deadpool's Diner. So I agree. I love the stakes being gone. Like, some people, especially like poker players in the community, really like the original Deadpool's Diner like formula of like the crazy high stakes and things just like expanding like crazy, because it kind of takes the risk reward of snapping and supercharges it like crazy, where you can get tons and tons of bubs in one direction or the other. So I'm sure that there are people on that side of the fence who are pretty disappointed to see where this has come. I'm sure the rewards make them not really care too terribly much about it, but yeah, man, once you get up to that like 60k bub refill, now it's just like every 8 hours I jump on. Like, I'll see if people want to do the trading back and forth thing, and if they do, I'll do that. Or I just snap 3 times. I just play it out. I see what happens, man. Really, really awesome. Huge W to Second Dinner. Hopefully they find a nice happy medium for something that still feels generous and exciting for us to do. Because like I said, they're definitely going to bring it down from here, but we're hoping we don't go back to, Kid Omega levels. So we have to find somewhere that's somewhere in the medium, and hoping that it's even more, positive for the community in any ways possible. I think that would be really, really good for continuing to grow and build that goodwill that a lot of people have kind of lost with Second Dinner over the last couple of years.
Yeah, this is the polar opposite to the Kid Omega situation. And a good tip, by the way, is just before bed, you should just go on and I'm losing, hello, fist bump, and just give away all your bubs so that they regenerate while you're sleeping, and it'll actually help you progress here as well. So just a little tip for people in case they're wondering. But yeah, this was an absolute win. Kudos to Second Dinner for absolutely knocking it out of the park. Bynx, my man, that's going to take us to the Snapchat mailbag. We have 3 questions here from the community that I would like your input on, my man. So I'm going to throw it out there. J Bear coming in with a good old callback to the Spotlight system. The Spotlight system had its faults, but one big benefit of it was that it was an inherent catch-up mechanic, whereby the more cards you were missing, the cheaper the cards were to acquire. They could restore that by having the snap packs fluidly priced, whereby the more cards you're missing, the cheaper the packs are. Bynx, what are your thoughts?
I think that's a pretty cool idea. I like the idea of it being flexible. One thing that most people hate whenever I talk about the economy is that I always try and put my think about this from a business perspective hat that I think a lot of people don't like to do. But thinking about it from a business perspective, and Second Dinner's opinion of that, it might warp the value of those packs and have... So like it would be really nice to see it be cheaper, but then as it goes up and up, then it's going to warp the value in like that consumer's mind that it's getting more and more, and like over time make them less likely to spend. So from a business perspective, I don't see Second Dinner doing that specifically. I could be wrong on that regard. But I do like the idea of just more things to help with catch-up mechanics. They announced the big catch-up mechanic where if you've been gone for 2 months, you get that, like month-long chain of being able to get a lot of things. So they are focusing on building more catch-up mechanics into everything. I also have a hard time with... talking about like Spotlight system versus the new pack system, because me and you are an outlier, right? Like we've had all the cards forever. So for us, Snap Pack is great, right? Because we just get the packs, you get a little bit extra goodies, you get to pay quite a bit less than you were with the Spotlight keys to actually do it. So for us, it's massively better, but it's like a tier, right? Like some tiers, like people who are way lower don't get to do it. So I always have a hard time answering like specifically how they can make it on there, because I don't have the experience of going through it. From my perspective, it's just really good. So it's hard for me to give like a clear response to that. But I would say in general, more catch-up mechanics are always good, and there is signs that Second Dinner is investing time and resources into making those in other ways. So I think that that's in general a big positive.
Yeah, and leaning into like the packs, like the X-Men packs, the Destroy packs, and like kind of the themed packs to help people complete specific archetypes and decks, I think is a good idea, and in itself a bit of a catch-up mechanic if they can price those a little more fairly. Another thing that like I had this thought of was like that this type of suggestion also makes so that the more cards you end up owning, you feel like you're getting punished for having a larger collection, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to be a perspective a lot of people share. And the other thought I had was that, like, realistically, I know that we spend a lot of time talking about the economy, we want it to be better and stuff like that, but at the same time, we really don't know the challenges that Second Dinner does have. I'm sure the Marvel IP is a factor. I'm pretty sure, like, we just don't know those things, right? And there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not making those decisions because, you know, there's a good chance you might see something that looks great on the surface and then you can't pay the bills, right? You know what I mean? And so, like, these types of things need to find the middle ground between being very fair for the players, sustaining the game, and of course being profitable for the company. And I just hope that Second Dinner is making strides to find where that balance is. And I suspect that they are. From what I see in the engagement I've had with Second Dinner, it seems like they care very much about this game, and they are trying to make it more accessible to more players. And it's exactly that. The efforts with the catch-up mechanics and the new player experiences and the returning player experiences, that stuff is a lot of effort, and they're putting that effort in, and you'd love to see it. And I'm sure that if the economy needs more additional tweaking, they're going to consider it. Now, Russ comes in with a statement regarding what I had mentioned last week. We were talking about Jim Hammond, and I brought up Top Gear. Top Gear and Top Gun are two very different experiences, both about machines, but one flies and one is on the road. Top Gear. And Russ does state, yes, Alex, Richard the Hamstered Hammond was a Top Gear presenter. I used to love the program too. My favorite episodes when they purchased a sports car for under $10K. I just remember watching them like race cars around their tracks. And like I remember watching Sebastian Vettel in like the affordable car series, or like what's it called, the reasonably priced race car, and he drove like a little car around a racetrack, ended up setting the record. That was like old school, just really awesome TV. And then now everyone just binges Netflix and stuff. So I don't know, man. I miss the days of like every Thursday night I'd have to watch the next episode of Dragon Ball Z and like cut out that time. My kids don't get that. They just feel like everything's on demand. You know what I mean? And then they would just talk like during Dragon Ball Z. They would just talk about fighting the entire time. And then you have to wait for the next week for them to actually fight. So disappointing.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, for me, my Top Gear, I feel like was Mythbusters. I feel like they're the same like genre of show, like pretty similar with like what they do. But I never really watched too much Top Gear, but Mythbusters was kind of like that for me. That like random show that was always playing replays. You know, you'd watch one that you've seen like a couple of times before, and they're doing cool science stuff and they're doing cool machines and everything like that. So I also think back to simpler times when you just, you know, turn on the TV and hit the channel up and channel down until you find something that takes your attention.
It is kind of crazy that's how it used to work. Like you would just catch shows in the middle of it and be like, yeah, let's watch this, whatever. You just like actually flip through channel surfing. It was called channel surfing back in the day for people that would remember that. And Johnny Blaze comes in with our final question of the day. Johnny Blaze states, I hear a lot of frustrations around going up and down in the rank 90s and not making it to Infinite this season. I personally stopped caring about my rank after receiving the most meaningful reward, which is the 500 gold at 90. Sometimes I hit Infinite, sometimes I don't, but it seems like a huge pain point for others. Bynx, in your kind of experience, has it been harder getting to Infinite?
I mean, for me, I haven't felt it as much. I think the biggest change is the bot behavior change, because I feel like as Marvel Snap players on our ladder grind, there was this thing that what a bot is, right? And sometimes there was like the cheater bots, which were a nightmare. But in general, a lot of times there's just been these like loser bots where you basically, you force and you play in one lane, you try and get them to snap, you snap back to try and take the 8 cubes from them, right? And they've really reworked how the bots act and play, where 90% of the time, I don't like know it's a bot until turn 6 anymore. I don't know if you've had this change before, but I used to be able to pick up bots in like one turn. You could just like immediately sniff it out. But now they play much more naturally and everything like that. So I feel like people need to relearn how to identify and maybe play around bots a little bit better would probably help a lot with the climb. I think that's probably to me, that's what I can think of as the only change that's happened in the last couple of months, which is what they mentioned. Tell me about your thoughts, because I feel like you, when we talked about this a little bit before, you kind of seemed a little bit more on board with that. What kind of changes, or why have you felt this shift in the 90s being a little bit more sweaty or harder to get through?
I just feel that like the climb towards infinite has been significantly harder, specifically in the last 2 months. They definitely changed the bot behavior. I think they took out a lot of the free cube bots, which were happening, right? Like the auto lose bots, they're still there here and there. But what I think they've done is, you're right, they've made the other bots that you do encounter feel much more natural, which in theory is a good thing, but they're much more competitive. However, one of the challenges that I have seen is that like sometimes the decks don't make sense. And while I'm not an engineer, I don't know if this is the case, and this might be one of those like, tinfoil hat things. I feel like I've played bots that have access to cards outside of their deck. Like I feel like I've had experiences, like even on stream, where I'm like, that bot just ran a card that is not in that deck and it makes no sense. And it was the exact card they needed to beat me. And it's happened a couple times. And that's what old cheater bots used to do. Like, remember those really old school cheater bots where they would just
know
like
the RNG of things? And they would like perfectly make their plays based on like the RNG seed and what you would play. Dude, those were...
It was awful. And like, there was an example. Oh man, it was like a recent stream where on turn 6, like this deck that would had no right in their world ever running Luke Cage. Like I can't remember exactly what deck it was, but there was no way Luke Cage would have been in that deck. And on turn 6, it just laid a Luke Cage down. And I was like, bro, why is that in? It was just in the deck, and I knew it was a bot. And I was like, and it scammed me. It scammed me like 8 cubes. I was trying to scam the bot 8 cubes, right? And I was like, no way. There's no way. It pulled that Luke Cage from like the library of cards. It went into the library and pulled that card. Yeah, it literally is like looking at its hand. It's like, no, it took one card and put like, give me that Luke Cage. You know what I mean? And I was like so tilted out. But anyways, I do think that for the average player, and this is what I get concerned about. Who cares about my experience, right? I love Snap. I'll play Snap. Whatever. But I get concerned when the average player who is trying to climb and want to have a reasonable fun time doing so is encountering bots that make their experience feel miserable. And I feel that on aggregate across the entire casual player base, which I tend to be more in touch with than others, they are having a much more difficult time ranking up towards infinite. I feel like they're having much less fun on the infinite ladder. And if they're not having fun on the ladder and they don't have things like Deadpool's Diner to turn their attention away, they're going to turn away from the game. And so I'm concerned about what the ranked experience feels like for the average casual player who we are as a community, and I hope as Second Dinner is hoping to retain. It's also worth noting, though, it is much easier to get to infinite than it ever used to be. Like back in the day, we had 10 per level, stuff like that, right? It is still easier to get to infinite than it was like in the launch window. However, I still think that whatever they changed over the last 2 months has been a massive net negative, because generally speaking, I see a lot of anger towards the ranking process.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't see it as much maybe as you do. I've definitely heard it over the last couple of months, like people talking about bots specifically, and I do think that it's changed. Like the biggest thing for me is like, in my opinion, the way that they changed the bots is so much better, because it feels like you're playing Marvel Snap. Because when you used to play bots, you didn't play Marvel Snap. You just did whatever. Now the bots are ordering their cards right. They're not just playing the dumbest thing you've ever seen and playing like armor on top of their Nova, like turn 1 and turn 2, and just doing absolute nonsense, right? They're actually like making plays. And I feel like that's going to be better for new people who come in, because I feel like new people have this problem where the bots used to be so brain dead. They'd play all these bots. They'd think they would be so good, and they'd like grind the game because they love it. They get to infinite playing all bots, and then they just get their face smashed in by some of the ladder grinders in infinite who have all these cards that they've never seen, right? So like, I feel like that experience is, to me, is what sounds terrible and awful. That because I feel like there's probably some people who love Marvel Snap so much that happened to them and are just like, what is going on? I'm never touching this game again. Like, this is like an awful experience, right? So I do think that in the short term, it might be frustrating. It might be hard to get through. And maybe I'm just like completely wrong. And I have a perspective that's different. And there are other things outside of like what I'm seeing on my end that's changing it. And hopefully that's for the better. But I do think the majority of it is bots. And I do think that bots playing Marvel Snap more like a human is in general going to be good for new players coming into the game. And just having this better experience in these like bot like lineups that you don't really want to get, that you actually feel like you're playing the game. You're not playing this dumb mini game where you're playing all your cards and you're skipping turns and they don't snap for some reason and you're freaking out because why aren't you snapping? You've been up for 2 lanes for 4 turns. Like, why aren't you freaking snapping? So like I like getting rid of those situations. I think is a really good thing. So that's my perspective on it. I think that. If you're having trouble with Infinite, definitely trying to take a step back and breathe and not worry about it so much is definitely a big thing. Like anytime, like I think about this with any game. Anytime like a game isn't fun, like you're not having fun doing the thing, I always try and reevaluate what I'm doing in my mindset around it. Because whenever I play video games, I like to do it for fun. Now, we live in a world where a lot of people play games to also hate the game, and they'll play a game for 1,000 hours for a year and spend 500 hours complaining about it on the subreddit. Like that's what we live into. But if you want to have more fun playing games, like just take a step back, take a breath, feel like, what am I having fun doing with this? What am I not? Like, should I be caring so much about Infinite? Should I just be playing fun, stupid decks and losing and being okay with losing? I think figuring out stuff like that is just in general a good thing to do as playing any kind of live service game like this.
I do agree with you, right? I think that getting rid of the absolute like hardcore throw bots is probably okay, but I think that there's a middle ground between throw bot that intentionally plays like Nakia on turn 6 as their closing line and these ruthless assassins that are coming out and absolutely demolishing your dreams for 8 cubes with like the most ruthless borderline cheating plays. And here's the one thing I did mention, like it felt like when I brought up that Luke Cage thing, it felt like, you know, the bot was pulling from the entire archive. It's entirely possible there's like an engineer will listen to this right now and be like, bro, I programmed those bots. It doesn't do that. It was probably just in the deck for some reason.
Triskelion happened or like something you missed,
like,
right?
Like, just, and like I get it,
some
right?
other way that it showed up.
Yeah, it's
there
just,
usually is a
right?
much simpler solution than like we are architects who will use God to create any card possible to destroy you and make you stop playing. You know,
I know, but yeah, you're right, and I think that like it's one of those things where like the bot change is definitely huge. I just think they need to be toned down a bit, and I think that at the end of the day, yes, the bots can be good, but people are gonna want to enjoy their laddering experience, and they won't if these bots go absolutely insane. Right? So finding that middle ground, I think, will be particularly valuable. But on that note, my man, I got to say thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. You've been someone who I've wanted to have on as a guest for the longest time. You're someone who I have an immense amount of respect for. One of the absolute OGs of Marvel Snap. And down in the description below, we're going to have links to Bynx's Twitch. You stream at like, sometimes you stream at like, I'll use your language, DGen hours. And other times you're streaming right in the middle of the day. I can't quite figure out when you're supposed to be streaming or not. And then we have obviously your YouTube channel, which is an awesome one at that. So when can we find you on Twitch? Because you seem to be moving your schedule around a bit.
A little bit. I did a big change. I used to be all DGen hours, but just for like lifestyle, I wanted to try and like really change my habits for what I was doing. So you can generally catch me Monday and then Wednesday through Friday from like 1 p.m. Central to around 6. And then Tuesday, I record a video off stream for the new card. So I do DGen hours for all those people who used to watch me all those times so late. So if you're ever up late on a Tuesday, I'm pretty sure I'll be streaming, playing some fun decks with the new card. But Alex, man, I am so excited to be here. This was a wonderful conversation. The last hour and a half absolutely flew by. Thank you so much for the invite on here, man. I think that you are such a amazing piece and part of the Marvel Snap community. You know, you're I've always just been so like gravitated towards like your vibe and just how you always like have a smile on your face. It's something that I try and do too, even though sometimes I go crazy and get a little bit tilted. But I think that really trying to like enjoy this game and finding other people who have like a real genuine joy for this game and like to put more of their focus on celebrating the good from it than always just like finding whatever's wrong with anything that Marvel Snap is happening. Those are the people that I love being around. I love having conversations with, and I love being your friend, man. You're an amazing dude, Alex, and I'm super, super excited to see you next time we get to see you in person and give you a big old hug.
My man, you make it sound like almost I paid you to say all that, man. I appreciate that so much. That was like the nicest outro anyone's ever given me, man. I sincerely appreciate it. And you're right, man. I just I love the game, and I want to share that passion, and it's something that you and I both share.
Shows,
like
man.
at the end of the day, you know, we're playing something that we love, and I feel grateful that we're in this position at all, that we get to play a game. We have these platforms that we have, and yeah, being positive, I think, is a powerful thing in today's world. And there's a lot of reasons why you can get upset about Marvel Snap, but there's also a lot of reasons to be grateful for what we have, and of course be happy that we get to share this passion and this pastime with the world. And so, dude, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate those words. That truly means a lot to me. And as I said before, guys, use those links, find Bynx online, check them out, and we'll see you on that next one.